Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to walk you through basics of Anaconda and Jupyter Lab. All right. So let's run Anaconda software, and if you run Anaconda software, you are going to get something like this. All right. Depending on your screen resolution, these tiles might be slightly moved around, but you are going to get pretty much the same thing. Anaconda is more than just one platform for our coding. We are going to use mostly Jupyter Lab or older version of Jupyter product, Jupyter Notebook. We are going to stay mostly with Jupyter Lab, but on top of that, if you want to work with a different kind of IDE or integrated development environment, you can explore Spider or PyCharm. Even this gives you capability of coding in R as well, but we are going to stay with just Jupyter Lab for the time being. And that was our home tab in Anaconda Navigator. Environments, this is for the most part we are not going to even touch it. Roughly speaking, this is just all of the packages that you have in this specific base environment for your coding and their versions. Learning the most of data science and data analytics packages and libraries, they have a very extensive documentation. That documentation is, for example, NumPy documentation is, you can access it from here. It's going to give you, this is where NumPy's documentation is, and it's each documentation probably is a few thousand pages. Go back here. One part that we are gonna use quite a bit, and I think it's a great idea for you to explore it as well, is a community. This is where, as the name suggests, the community, you can learn a little bit about data science related conferences, gatherings, and forums. That is where we are gonna focus on. For example, if you want to ask questions about Anaconda and get answer or explore knowledge base of Anaconda forum, you can explore it here, or Matplotlib mailing lists. If you want to join any of them, you can explore it here. The one that pretty much all programmers use is this one, Stack Overflow Python. All right, let's explore that. What is this Stack Overflow? You can consider this as a knowledge base, somewhere that for the last 15, 20, 30 years, people have asked questions, and other people who know the answer to that question, they have answered the question, and it is organized really, really well. For example, if you see that Stack Overflow, default, it took us to Python. If, for example, if you want to learn about Matplotlib, all right, you can search, and there are going to be all questions that they have. You are going to get all questions that have something to do with Matplotlib. Before asking question, make sure you search your before asking or posting any question, make sure that you search your question, because most likely someone else had that question years ago, and they have asked the question, there's been a lot of discussion, and someone has already answered that. Let's say this one, save plot to image file instead of displaying it. If you have question about saving plot, read the question, look at the answers, and one of these answers, there are 23 answers, one of these answers is going to have this green check button. That means that whoever asked the question read all of these answers, and this is the closest correct answer, right? I have been part of this Stack Overflow. I've joined, it's just free, everyone can join. For the last, I believe, 12, 13 years, I've asked a bunch of questions, and whenever I have a question, quite frankly, this is one of the very first places that I explore. All right, let's go back to Anaconda right here. So we talked about a little bit home, environment, learning, community. You can also follow their Twitter, you go to their YouTube or GitHub. And so let's go back to home and run Jupyter Lab by clicking on launch. If you do that, you are gonna get to this page. Let me close these two. Let me get to this page. Before moving forward, one problem that the students have is that, oh my God, I closed this file. I don't know how to open it. If you close this, sometimes clicking on this launcher is not going to run Jupyter Lab again, right? It's pretty easy to run it again. As long as you have Anaconda Navigator, this software open, what you need to do, you need to open Google Chrome and go to localhost 8888. By default, it's going to be there. All right. If you click on it, it is going to run your Jupyter Lab software, or it's going to run your Jupyter Lab. Jupyter Lab, roughly speaking, is an IDE, integrated development environment, that you can run it from your browser, Google Chrome. Right? It doesn't require much of a setting. It's just it's very portable. Let's learn. This video is going to explore basics of it. When you run it, you should come to something like this. Let's start with the left side, this bar right here. There are a bunch of folders, but we don't know what those folders are. See, Mac or PC users, every one of us, when we log into our computer, usually there's a username, and under our username, there's a bunch of folders, all right? This is where our base username is. And in my case, that is where it's this folder, right? These folders don't look like, in first glance, they don't look like these folders. But if we ignore all of the folders that start with dot, I'm going to ignore all of them. The very first one is 3D objects, Anaconda 3, Anaconda 3. Ignore the hidden folder, and then contacts, desktop. Please, before moving forward, create somewhere, wherever you keep your files, create one folder for this course, right? Let's call this Python, or whatever you want to call it. Let me create a folder here, right? Python for Python data analysis, analysis, right? Let's see if it's going to show up here. I created it under Python data analysis. It's going to show up soon. It is going to show up here. All right. And there we go. Python data analysis. I created it a few seconds ago. Of course, there's nothing inside this. Please, before moving forward, wherever you want to keep your files, hopefully not desktop, wherever you want to keep your files, create a folder, and inside that folder, so I'm gonna go to that folder, Python data analysis. All right, there's nothing there. Inside that, create 7-8 folders. Week 0, week 1, week 2, week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Please pause before moving forward and create those 7-8 folders, and every week organize your files, because you are going to have so many different data files and the Python notebooks, Jupyter Lab notebooks, that it's going to be very, very hard to find your files. Please be organized, at least for this course, all right? There's going to be a lot of files, and I do not want to hear from anyone saying, oh my God, I wrote my code, but I don't know where I saved it, right? Here's a solution I'm providing. I'm going to create a folder here. I'm going to call it week 0, right? Week 0, right? And soon that name is going to change to week 0. You see that? All right. There's nothing there. We are going to see, I'm at Python data analysis week 0. Now, any Python file or notebook that I create here by clicking on clicking on this, all right, it is going to automatically be saved in this active directory. I'm going to click on this. There you go. It created our very first, what we know as a notebook. Please give a meaningful name to your files. Right now, it's untitled.pynb. That is IPYNB, IPython notebook. I'm going to right click on it, rename notebook to Anaconda Jupyter Lab, right? And there you go. You have a file called Anaconda _Jupyter Lab, and that file is here as well. You see that there is a dot circle there on the right corner of that tab. It means there is unsaved data, and that unsaved data is the name of the file. So I'm going to save it, and that dot disappeared. All right. Now, what if I want to create files somewhere else? Well, I'm going to navigate back to Python data analysis. Let's create another folder. All right. I'm going to create folder of week one. Oh, one. All right. Let's wait for the name to change. All right, week one, I'm going to go there. And now if I want to create another file here, this is what we are going to do. I'm going to go to File, New Launcher. All right. Under New Launcher, you see that it says Python Data Analysis Week 1. It means if I create any file, it is going to go to this folder, right? I'm going to create a file. Oh, come on. Create a file, and sure enough, it's going to be called Untitled. I'm going to change the name, rename to second file. All right. Now I have two different files in two different folders. Second file is under the folder of Python Data Analysis Week 1. And if I click on the other tab, Anaconda Jupyter Lab, this one is in a different folder, right? So these two are in two different folders. I am going to go back just for the sake of consistency. I'm going to go back to week 0. All right. This is where my file is. I'm going to close the second file that I created. It's going to say, hey, there are saved changes that you haven't saved. It's okay. I'm going to discard that. All right. Make sure that my file is, I'm still at that folder, week 0, and that is my file. Now we are ready to code. Coding in Python in Jupyter Lab is done in what is known as cells. This is one cell, right? Let me just write something, 2 plus 3. A couple of things that you are going to notice is that numbers are in different colors compared to operators such as plus, right? I want to see results of this cell. Of course, it's going to be 5, right? If I want to see it, I'm going to run I'm going to run it, right? Let me run it. And once you do that, roughly speaking, Python interpreter is going to read this cell. If there is no error, if there is nothing weird, if Python interpreter understands everything that you have written, it is going to show the results if there's a need to show the results. And sure enough, it is going to show the results. Let's do it, right? And it's going to be 5, right? Again, one thing I want to notice is that it shows the result, and it adds a number 1 on the left side of this cell and the result. That is not order of cells. That is the operation number that Python has performed. If I perform perform one more activity, let's say use it as a calculator again, 6 minus 7, run it. It's going to give me -1, and there's going to be cell 2, number 2 written on the left side of this cell, right? Now, well, it looks like it's the order of cells, but it's not. If I go back here and run 2 plus 3 one more time, that number 1 is going to change to 3. Let me run it again. See, it says 3. That number that you see is this is the third time Python in this session, Python interpreter runs a cell or performs an activity, right? Let me run one more. 2 times 7, or well, I use 3 times 7 and run it. It's going to be 21, right? So you see the order now is 3, 2, 4. There is not even 1 here, right? Because we got rid of that one by running 2 plus 3 the second time. A couple of, let's just use these examples to explore features of Jupyter Lab, right? First of all, you see that on each of these cells, when I select or put cursor inside the cell, we are going to call that active cell. There is this option here, it says code. If I go to this one, it says code. If I go here, it says code. Let me just select the very first one, 2 plus 3. And again, right now, that 2 plus 3 cell is my active cell. I'm going to open that code. It says, well, code is the default one, and then Markdown. All right. Markdown is the format we are going to use. Markdown cells is we are going to use Markdown cells as for document preparation and for writing comments or explaining our work. All right. All the handouts that you are getting in your on a weekly basis, I have prepared them using Markdown. So let me change it to Markdown. What's going to happen is that, first of all, that number 5 is going to disappear because any cell that is we are going to change to Markdown, Python is not going to care about that cell, roughly speaking. All right. So there is no result. And also that number 3 is going to disappear. Let me change it to Markdown. There we go. All right. It says also the color of 2 and 3 and plus, they were 2 different colors, green and purple. They all changed. All right. So, and if I run this, let's see what happens. If I run this, it says 2 plus 3. It doesn't even give me the answer. All right. Because Python does not run that cell. It's just a text. It's just a string that you are putting in that cell. And what is the point of doing that? Well, we can use that as a way of explaining our code. All right. I'm going to say this is our first notebook, right? And if I run it, it is going to look like a title in this notebook, and whoever you share this notebook with is going to read these, and it is more of a communication tool, at least in this level right now, as a communication tool between you and whoever you share your document with, or communication between you and yourself. Later on, you want to come back and see, you want to know what you have done. This is one nice way of putting explanation or explaining your own code. The way I use it, again, besides that document preparation, there are a few hints I want to give you, and that is usually we have a section title, and then we have subsection, and then subsection. So if you put a sharp sign right here with a space in a markdown cell, or run it, it is going to be a section title, right? You see the font is much bigger. Well, how about double sharp sign? You can do the double sharp sign. This is subsection 1. All right, you can call it A, whatever you want to call it. How about 3? Well, you can do 3 as well. This is subsection. That's fine. That highlighting that you see is my spell checker. Probably you haven't activated yours. It's okay if you don't get that sort of pink highlight. If I run it, you see that one sharp sign font is the biggest, and then it gets smaller and then gets smaller. All right. And that's how I prepare your documents. I prepare everything right here in Jupyter. If you double click on this, again, it's going to go back to edit mode. How about these cells? Well, this cell, if I click on this cell, if I activate this, it says it's code. Go back to the first one, it says it's marked down. Back to here, code. All right. So we got to be a little bit careful with this, because sometimes that causes confusion. What if I have a text and run it with Python? Let's see what happens. This is fun. All right. It's code. All right. What's going to happen is that if I run this, Python interpreter will try to understand what we are doing here. If there's an error, or if there's something that Python doesn't understand, we are going to get an error. All right, let me run it. And it says, I don't understand what this is. All right. If I get rid of this, run it one more time, Python is going to say is one of the reserved keys. There's an error here, right? But if I change this, again, if I change this to Markdown and run it, nothing's going to happen, right? So be mindful of that. So that is basics of working with cells. Do you have to have just one row per cell? Absolutely not. Almost all the time we are going to have more than one line of code per cell. I know we haven't talked about Python coding, but I'm going to write just 2-3 simple lines of code and see how it works. All right, I'm going to say var1 variable 1 equal to 10, var2 equal to 3, results equal to var1 plus var2, right? I'm going to say print results. What this is going to do, this is going to assign value of a variable 1 or var1 to, for the time being, let's call the number 10, var2 to number 3, and then add them up and show the results. If there is no error in my code, I'm going to get the result of 13, right? Again, this is code. It means Python is going to read it line by line. Let me run it, and sure enough, there is no error here. I'm going to get 13. My point was that you can have, and almost all the time, we are going to have more than one line of code per cell. Now let's explore other features of this Jupyter Lab. It's a fun IDE to use. Most programmers that I know, they like to use a dark theme for their programming environment. What do I mean by that? Well, this light theme, this white theme, usually it's not very good for your eyes. It's best if you change the theme to dark theme, right? Something like this. Personally, when I do coding, I'm going to use this dark theme, but for the sake of quality and clarity of video, I'm going to use a light theme. Right? But if you want to change it, from here, setting, theme, you can change, go between dark and light. Most likely you have noticed that my font right here is bigger than your default font that you have on your computer. If you want to increase the font, you can do it here, increase code font size, increase content font size, or user interface font size. That is one way of doing it, increasing. Just click on it and it's going to increase it. Another way of doing it is using advanced setting editor. You can give it a certain size, and that one maybe we can discuss later. Okay. Now we talked a little bit about setting. Let's talk about let me see, run. There we go, run, this one. All right. A lot of times we want to run more than one cell at a time. All right, let me change these cells. I'm gonna say this is just a text, right? Sub, right? Section. One more sub. No, there you go. Sub section. All right. And 6 minus 7 times 5, 3 times 7 plus 2, and 100. All right. Well, you can run them one by one. That's totally fine. And a lot of times we are going to do that. And you can run them all. Sometimes that's what you want, right? You can run all cells, and it is going to go through markdown cells and code cells and run them. If there's an error, it's going to show an error. All right. A lot of times we want to run one code, one cell, and cells above it or cells below it, right? That feature, that also is, I'm going to leave it to you, explore it yourself here. Another feature of this software, which is fun, again, let me save my file, save the file, there we go. Another feature, another menu that we are going to explore is a view. There is a presentation mode that sometimes I use in class. So if you select that, it is going to make it a little bit easier on eye. All right, I'm going to change it back to just a regular one. Let me see. All right, so edit one, there are a bunch of shortcut keys. I want to go over them with you. Let's say I want to change location of this cell all the way, move it all the way till end. Right? Let's say now this is one way to do it. I'm gonna grab it, not when it's active, when I have selected the left side or clicked on the left side. I'm going to just hold down the mouse and all the way leave it. Let's say I want to move it here, right? Or I want to move it, let's say, here. All right, that's one way to do it. Another way is these are shortcuts that I want you to start using them. And it's the same for Mac and PC users. Let's say, let me go all the way here. Let's say I want to move this markdown cell or code cell, doesn't matter, all the way till end. All right, I'm going to make sure that I select on the left side. All right, there's that vertical blue bar. Then I'm going to press X. That one disappeared, we cut it, and then I'm going to press V wherever you want to paste it, V, and it is going to paste to the end, right? In PC and Mac, usually we use under either Control X and or the Mac button X, but that is stored for a different purpose, right? How can I copy? And I'm going to go over that soon. How can I copy one cell somewhere else? Well, again, same thing. Let's say I want to copy this code cell all the way till on top, right? I'm going to select the left side. I'm going to press C to copy it. Just C, letter C, key in keyboard. And V. All right, you see that it pasted below that cell, so I can move it all the way till top, all the way to top, right? Well, how about Control C, Control V, Control X, Control V, or that Apple button, C, V, all of that? Well, if you go to Edit menu, you see that those are also available. However, those are available when you are trying to copy and paste or cut and paste inside a cell, all right? If I want to move, let's say, these two lines from one cell to another cell, I'm going to select them. Let's select these two, Control X, and let's say I want to paste them here, Control V. All right, I'm going to save my file because I changed it. All right, I'm going to run this cell, var1 and var2. I have defined them, and then I want to run this cell. There you go. All right, so C, X, and V are for moving the whole cell, and the Control X, Control C, Control V, or that Apple button C, X, V, they are for moving items inside a cell. Let me make sure I have covered everything. So save file, yes. We talked about rename, yes. And I talked about all of that, except there are a couple of things left. And that one of them is, there we go, week 0. Let's say you want to open this file, right? This is where the file is, right? So under week 0, and that file. If I double click on it, let's see what happens. If I double click on it, it is going to open it as a text, but this is not what we really wanted to do. I'm not going to be able to modify, edit my my notebook comfortably here, right? Yes, all the contents are here, var1, var2, but this is so uncomfortable. This is so difficult to work with. And if I want to open this file, this is how we are going to open it. Let me close it. Let me close this file. All right. I'm gonna go all the way to that file, wherever that file is, right, week 0, and just double click on it, right, and it is going to open my file. You are not going to be able to open notebook files with just double clicking on them, not easily. Another thing is, especially if you have a little bit of a Python coding experience, you know that there are 2 different Python file formats. One of them is known as IPy. You see that IPyNB, IPython notebook, IPyNB. Another one is if you use another IDE or another integrated development environment, such as PyCharm or Spider, you are going to save your files at .py file or python.py. You can export your files as a .py file as well. How you can do that? Well, you can go to File, Save and Export Notebook as executable script, right? I'm going to click on this, and it's going to say, well, where do you want to save them? Well, I want to save them, wherever, in this Dropbox, in this right here. I want to save them right here, Anaconda, JupyterLab, .py. You see that it's not IPYNB anymore. All right. One more thing I wanted to cover, and let me see. Yes. Now, if I want to open a new cell, create a new cell somewhere in the middle, what I can do, I can just, wherever I would want to create a new cell, I'm going to select the cell above that and select plus sign. It is going to create a new cell there. How about this plus sign? Well, if you click on this plus sign, it is going to create another launcher. It is going to, I'm sorry, open a new launcher, and you can create another file, right? But if you really want to create a new cell, you need to use this plus sign right here, all right? And with that, I am done. And one last thing, and that is there is this sign. There's this button here called restart the kernel. You have something, a menu called kernel. It looks like this kernel is something important. Well, it is important. Right now, I have defined var1 and var2, and if I run them, they work. If I run results and print results, it's going to show me 103. Sometimes you need to press restart for just Python, right? That kernel restart, that is gonna exactly do what you is the way of restarting Python. So if I click on this restart kernel, it's gonna say, are you sure you wanna do that? Because if you do that, Python is gonna forget how you define var1 or var2, right? And I'm gonna show you the output of that, or consequence of that. I'm gonna say restart, right? Python restarted. If I run this, just this cell, result equal to var1 plus var2 and print results, it's going to say, I don't know what var1 is because Python restarted. I need to run this cell one more time, and there you go. All right. With that, we are done with this with this video. I hope you find it useful. There's going to be a follow-up videos talking about more advanced features of Jupyter Lab. All right, take care, guys.